Yes, Bloomberg is reporting that Iran's threat to react in a very nightmarish way for the U.S. killing of Iranian Army General Soleimani is being taken lightly, those threats taken lightly by the global market. We're seeing oil prices coming back to about $68.60 as we speak. And gold, as said earlier, is dithering a little bit. So, but let's put this together. It's been a very interesting and nail-biting weekend to start the new week, which day is the second trading day. So I'm asking Bolanle Agbaje, who is of Financial Derivatives Company, to tell us where we are at the moment, if the market traders are still nervous about what or what may not happen with this tension just abating a little bit, and we're getting a little bit more hours of sleep. Good morning.
Morning.
Is this crisis de-escalating, as it were?
Well, initially...
Are we seeing signals of that?
Well, initially, obviously, when it started and when the assassination happened, it spooked the market, and we saw oil price increase by about 5% from the day it happened. And I think now most analysts or most investors within the economy are, wary about the fact that has there been any significant impact on the supply or demand of oil. So it seems like the market has probably, taken into effect, this impact between the U.S. and Iran at the moment. But I think now we're seeing a decline in the price of oil to about $68 per barrel. Why? Because there haven't been any significant changes to the supply or demand. But then the fear of the unknown. We don't know how Iran is going to retaliate to this issue or this assassination, and most people are wary about what Iran will do. I think the major focus will be the Strait of Hormuz, because that's the particular way Iran has reacted in the past. They've blocked supply of oil to and fro from the Persian Gulf.
They could attack.
Yes, so they could attack tankers, based on that angle. But I think Trump is ready to retaliate if Iran, takes that approach.
It looks like in the last couple of hours or overnight, Mr. President, the U.S. President, hasn't really tweeted anything so aggressive so far as we have seen in the last, since yesterday's afternoon.
Yeah.
And the Iranians seems to have concentrated a little bit more on the burial of Soleimani. So it looks like everyone just said, okay, it looks like everybody's a little bit calm right now. The U.S. Congress, the House of Reps are weighing on the executive branch and the White House on how to react moving forward to some of the problems. So does it look like it's a bit of a de-escalation, natural?
I don't think it's at this time we should actually take a seat back so soon. I feel like
that's
the US...
actually my question. Whether the storm is over.
No, I think at this moment the US, they're probably plotting and planning, whatever moves or reactions they would give based on, the ways they think Iran would retaliate to this issue. But I don't think Trump tweeting or not tweeting as much has anything to do with, because as we know, he's an irrational...
It gets people on edge around the world.
No, it does. But I think now it's less talking and more action on his part. So because, when it comes to this kinds of things, especially to do with wars between the US and Iran, I don't think it's something to be taken lightly. Other countries have, mentioned that it's important for the US to make sure this doesn't escalate, because the impact or the negative impact of the aftermath of this war between the US and Iran is not something people recover from.
If it happens.
If it happens.
If it happens. So you folks think this is a very big issue on your list of burning economic issues?
Yes, it is. It is, definitely. And the likes of Goldman Sachs has already mentioned that we shouldn't expect oil prices going to about $75 per barrel. They don't expect that. And why? Because they haven't really seen any, reaction to, cause that kind of increases in prices. So when it comes to us locally and domestically, I think the path that we're taking regarding, concentrating on our budget and trying to recover our economy is what we should focus on, so we can properly shield ourselves from what goes on in the external, in the global economy.
How do we do that in terms of our reserves, in terms of the oil prices, accretion to excess crude account, meeting the budget benchmark?
I definitely think borrowing will definitely come into question very soon, whether private or external borrowings. I think that's because we've seen that reserves are currently down to about 24-month low at about $38 billion, which is not as great for us to, you know, help with funding the budget. But I think looking for alternate sources is what the Minister of Budget and Planning and even the Minister of Finance is probably focused on right now, because they have so many projects lined up. We've obviously started the year well, you know, starting the year with the right method by creating a budget that starts from January to December. So I think looking at getting the action when it comes to investing and, you know, releasing funds to fund, you know, infrastructure is something that they're really concentrating on at the moment.
Well, in terms of the goodies, looks like whatever happens, we will have some accretion from oil.
Yes, definitely.
And that's on your list of the.
And I think
goodies, yes.
the increases in prices should feed into maybe slight increases in external reserves in the coming months, because, you know, we surely should have benefited from oil prices, you know, reaching almost about $70 per barrel. But obviously, we keep an eye on what goes on in the oil markets. Most investors are reacting by investing in gold. But I think oil will still remain relevant when it comes to a source of investment.
Goldman Sachs, and I saw that on CNBC, gold, it will be a better hedge than oil.
Yes, because it's a safe haven. It has always been from the Bretton Woods era.
So if this tension continues, folks should rather look at gold rather than crude oil as a safe haven.
Yes, well, the less risky.
Yes, crude oil seems to make you smile in the morning and make you cry in the evening. Well, I don't understand. Just yesterday, just woke up to $70 a barrel.
Yes.
And I was having dinner, and I'm looking at 68.17.
But another
point
point to mention is what OPEC is doing as well, which I think would also keep feeding into prices. You know, OPEC has currently cut about 1.7 million barrels per day, and they're looking to move that to about 2 million barrels per day. I think Saudi Arabia has, you know, committed to cutting another 167,000 barrels per day. So I think that should, you know, have immediate impact on, you know, oil prices as we go on.
The U.S. does not want a very highly sustainable price of crude. It's not in the U.S. interest.
Yes, it's not, because it becomes more costly for, you know, the U.S. Oil producers to produce shale oil as a result. But I think at this moment...
And the price of gasoline and heating oil.
Yes, and obviously, when you look at the direct impact on consumers, for those buying air tickets, jet fuel, it will definitely affect, you know, the well-being of the immediate American. But I think... I don't know, it's a way, you know, some of these politicians see what do we gain at the moment in the short term and lose in the short term to gain
in the long run. You don't want to upset the U.S. economy in this election year.
Yeah.
Yes, President Trump has done so much and is getting a lot of kudos and thumbs up for what he's done.
Which is taking attention from, you know, the issues surrounding
the impeachment.
Yes.
So he's done, the numbers are looking really good. The Fed is kind of towing his line in terms of the interest rate. So this is not the time to knock it all down with just months down to the elections.
Yeah, but
perhaps
you know,
that is responsible for the tweets not coming out.
You know, good news brings people together. I think also fear and bad news also brings people together. So now you'll see a unified America. You know, because I feel like they're what they think about, or their notion is committed to, you know, protecting America first. So when you have that diversity within, oh, I don't support Trump, or I support Trump, in this moment where you have this escalation between U.S. and Iran, I feel like both countries would have their citizens coming together to support.
Okay, so let's come back home a little bit about our own electricity. It looks like it's our own tension that came in. A bit of a scare. On Monday, everybody's back, his kids are back at school,
like
and all
I mentioned,
of that.
we have so
then you
much...
just come in and said, there's going to be an increase in electricity tariff. It's going to be January 1st. or it's going to be April.
There's mixed signals when it comes to what they actually
Whether
doing
it's
with.
now or April, it looks like consumers are kicking it back down the road or kicking it back up the road to NERC or the government and say, look, we don't want it.
Yeah, but I think at the moment for the government to increase power supply from the grid is obviously costly. And, you know, some of the issues that we had discussed for the past few years when it comes to the electricity problem within Nigeria, on one hand, you had the supply issue, and on the other hand, you had lack of, you know, a huge, very high costs when it comes to the discos. So the discos were not operating at optimal levels because, you know, they were not cost-reflective tariffs, and you had people that would evade from, you know, paying their electricity bills and find a way to bypass, you know, the tariffs. But I think working hand in hand in improving electricity and also increasing payment. But I think when you look at the payment structure of what they wanted to do, it's almost double, which is huge. So maybe reviewing how, you know, the level of increase of these tariffs might be something they would do. I know now they've mentioned that it's not definite. It's something that is in the talks. We know they've mentioned April, the month that they would, you know, more or less look into whether they would increase tariffs or not. So it's still something they're being is discussed upon.
Whichever way it happens, we're going to pay more for electricity in 2020. That's my prediction.
But they've increased minimum wage.
I think we should just brace up for it.
We should.
Uncle Sam doesn't give you, government doesn't give you something
without taking
for nothing. Yeah, it could be a reluctant taker, but very not so generous in giving, but takes from it. But again, so where are we with the seasonal effects and the border closure? Lest we forget.
Well, the border closure, we're seeing the effect of that tapering down. It seems like more or less rice, which was the major hit, has more or less tapered.
We survived this December.
We did.
In January.
We always survive somehow.
Rice.
Yes, we do.
Maybe we can survive another year.
Maybe they weren't consuming as much rice. There were probably other options like the likes of the amala. I think that's become a new trend. So maybe that's why we were able to survive it. And also, you know, the payment of the minimum wage. I think people were happy this Christmas, so less complaint. But now in January, we're seeing rice taper down to about 21,000 naira per 50.
From 27?
From 27,000.
1,000.
Yes, because we've had the elimination of the seasonal effects on this product. But generally, most commodities have remained flat. We're seeing increases in commodities like cement, and obviously that has to do with the increased level of construction.
The landlords are here.
Yeah, yes, and they're taking advantage of the weather to increase, you know, construction and building at the moment.
Interesting time. So right now, rice prices plateau.
Still high.
Yes.
Still high.
Still high. Still high.
But we're getting somewhere when it comes to, you know, the normal effects that we usually see between January and maybe March, April, before the new harvest season comes in. Yeah.
Okay. We've seen 6,000 naira per bag.
Yes.
I wouldn't mind the era of 6,000 per bag.
I don't know about going back to that era.
6,000.
I don't think so.
Just allow me to dream. I'm allowed to do that.
Well, yes.
Yes. I'm allowed to do that. Bolanle Agbaje, thank you so much from Financial Derivatives.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.